we asked everybody to cut 5% out of their budgets, and we didn't care where it came from. We let the coaches make the decision. We didn't say it had to come from travel or it had to come from whatever. We just said you need to find 5%. And fact of the matter is, when times are good and the revenue is flowing and you still have money constraints, but there's something healthy about looking at a budget and saying where can we be more efficient. So this has caused us to have to do that. So that's where we found some of the money, if you will. Some of that cost saving is helping pay for the 20.5 to go to rev share to support our athletes. And it's going to be 20.5 million either in rev share or new scholarship cost. And so we go from scholarship limits to roster limits. Any scholarship we give over the historical NCAA scholarship limits, the first 2.5 million of those goes against that 20.5 million, but it's still money coming out of the budget.
Yeah, and it's like 20 new football scholarships, for example, right?
Potentially, yeah. Well, I mean, we're not going to fully scholarship every single roster spot, but we'll work with every sport at the UAA, every Gator sport is going to benefit from this on some level.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point.
Okay, and welcome in to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's a pleasure to join you today. We have a great guest today. Scott Stricklin is going to join us. And we actually taped it yesterday, but because he had something to do today, but it's a great interview. And I think you guys will get a kick out of some of the stuff. And he'll try to explain some of the issues that we're dealing with the settlement and everything. Also on Monday, Coach Spurrier will be back in. We'll be at Coach Spurrier's restaurant. And then on next Thursday, Connor O'Gara from Saturdays Down South is going to join us. I've been thinking about having Connor on for a while. I don't really know Connor very well, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to talking to him. So we'll have a good time with him and just talk some college football, which is what we do this time of year. It's talking season, and Coach Spurrier should have copyrighted it. Although all you could do if you copyrighted it would be to sue somebody if they used it. So in other words, if Dan Patrick says talking season or has a segment called talking, I guess that would be the only way you could do it. But I mean, Belichick's wife suing people, I guess, her girlfriend, whatever she is. All right, let's get to our Royal Blue starting five. It is brought to you by our good friend Randy Royal at Royal Blue. Does a great job over there. We appreciate him so much. Let's go to our number one story really of the week. And I hate that we have to bring it up again, but I do. I feel like I got to say something about it again. And that is what happened with Coach O'Sullivan up in at Conway, South Carolina. And again, everybody's seen the video. He's F-bombing guy, a couple of people. There, and this is the thing, and my wife said it best, because we were talking about everything. And she said, I've never seen a situation where everybody was wrong, but this may be it. And I agree with her. Everybody was wrong. They were wrong to move the game. They were wrong to give them no leeway. No, you get up, you're already awake. You've set your alarm and everything. No, that's not why Florida lost the game. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it was wrong to do it the way they did it. It was wrong for Sully to chastise them like that and handle it like that. There are people that are going to argue it was wrong for Scott Stricklin to make him apologize. It was wrong for the coach of Coastal Carolina to call Sully a bully and be the guy the way he was. I mean, instead of celebrating a win. Anyway, everybody was wrong, and I think that's just the way we leave it and just end it right there. Things like that happen. Certainly, I think if Sully could do it over again, he'd do it differently. However, he was not wrong, as he'll tell you, he was not wrong in being upset. And that's the end of that. Can we put it to bed now? Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about how we're still talking about it. And maybe only in Gainesville, Florida. I may be talking about it. I did see where a podcast was talking about it in I think it was either yesterday or the day before on up in that part of the country. But anyway, We're putting an end to it right now. So let's get to number 2 on our Royal Blue starting 5, which is Florida's basketball schedule is now taking shape for a season that I think a lot of us are very excited about, because we don't feel like there's going to be, I don't know what the right way to say this is. And I said this before, Florida fans right now are more excited about this year than they were going into last year. Now, coming out of last year, we can't be more excited. It's impossible. We just witnessed something we'll may never see again. A team down in every game and finds a way to win. But we're excited because of what they've been able to bring in. Whether it's Boogie Flan, whether it's having Chinyalu back, having Condon back, having Houck back. Of course, Handlockton's back. You got the 4 horsemen there to handle the inside. You think Xavier Lee's going to be an answer out there? You think Flan? You think C.J. Ingram? I mean, I can't wait to watch this team play. The thing is, Coach Golden is a big believer in neutral site non-conference games. So the problem is you're not going to be able to watch a lot of Florida games in Gainesville. Watch them on TV. FSU will be here, of course. I think they're tentatively scheduled for November 11th is what I'm hearing, which will mean it's not going to be the night before the football game, which I don't know. I always liked that, but I also got why the coaches, and it started with Leonard Hamilton. He was the first guy who didn't want them to play. He wanted it to stand on its own, and it couldn't stand on its own. It never will stand on its own. Florida FSU basketball will never stand on its own versus Florida FSU football. But why not incorporate it, just like Florida did with its celebration the other day? I guess that's been over a month ago. Anyway, so they're going to have Arizona to open the season, UConn, FSU, and then they play in a tournament in San Diego. That's what we know so far. That is, it's going to be a really good schedule. And again, then you go to the SEC, which what we saw last year is certainly something we expect again this year. So I don't know if we'll go to 14 and get 14 teams in, but it's going to be a tough league. A lot of guys came back, and that's what they do these days. People come back, Ray. People will come back if you build it. What you built was NIL, and now everybody wants to come back and play because they can make almost as much money, in some cases more than they could make in the NBA. So it's just an interesting concept. Anyway, let's get to number 3 on our Royal Blues starting 5, and that is that a Hall of Fame ballot was announced this week. 3 Gators are on it. I don't think it's possible that 2 Gators could be voted in, okay? Here's what I'm going to give you my thoughts on each one. And that is, of course, Brad Culpepper, who's been on the ballot before. We had him on the radio yesterday. Alex Brown, who'll be speaking to the quarterback club later this year. And Percy Harvin. Okay, so here's my feeling. Any Hall of Fame that doesn't have Percy Harvin in it is not a Hall of Fame. It's a Hall of whatever. Percy Harvin is arguably the best player to ever play at Florida. And I'll tell you, the players who believe that the most are the players who played with him. Brandon Spikes. Brandon Spikes came here to play with Tebow, but when he got here, he realized that Percy Harvin was special. Now, look, Percy had baggage. We all know that. But I think he's the most dynamic player I ever watched in my life. In the case of Alex Brown, being the sack leader at the University of Florida doesn't carry any weight. I think it should. I think he should get in. I think he should be in the Ring of Honor, to be honest with you. Brad Culpepper, the problem for Brad is he's already been on the ballot. People, you don't pile up the big stats when you're playing, defensive tackle. He was a great player. There's no doubt about it. And I would hope that the academic part of it would weigh in too. And I think for a college football Hall of Fame, this guy was a Dratty Award winner. I think they're all 3 deserving. But of course, I have, orange and blue goggles, although not right now because my glasses are off. But you've got to put Percy in first. I'm sorry. Percy has got to go in right now, and that's it. I don't know if he'll show up for the ceremony, but we'll see. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. All right, let's move along to number 4 on our Royal Blue starting 5. And I assume I'm at liberty to talk about this because actually Brad did yesterday on our show, and they're not keeping any secrets, but they're filming a 30 for 30. And I think I'm doing it next week now. Next Friday, I believe, is when I'm going to film my segment. They want to talk to me. They talked to Bianchi, I know, earlier this week, and they're talking to Brad today, I believe it is. And the whole topic is about, it's called 16 Days in Gainesville, and it's about the student murders and Steve Spurrier's opening game and what a weird time that was. And it was weird. Believe me, it is. I got some stories for him, I can tell you that. But it was just bizarre. And there's no other way to put it. I don't like that I had to live through it. I hate that I had to live through it. I hate that all the people that were affected directly by it had to live through it. Families of them. I mean, I'm glad we still have that up on the wall, the memoriam up there on the 34th Street wall. It's a reminder every day not to forget those 5 people that passed away. And it just was a weird time. And meanwhile, Steve Spurrier's about to coach his first game. The Golden Boys come home. Players, Spurrier, and in fact, this is what I'll talk about this. I'm sure Brad will. But Spurrier had his players move their girlfriends into Yon Hall. It was the first time girls were allowed at Yon Hall because that was the safest place they could be during this time. It was scary, man. I'm telling you, I stayed up all night one night with a bat in my hand. I was just scared. I was scared of something happening to my family, not to me, So anyway, so that'll be interesting to see how that turns out. It is an interesting subject for a documentary because, and again, we never knew that I don't think anybody sat here on that day and was going, Spurrier is about to go on a run that's going to be unbelievable here. He's going to win the SEC multiple times and national championship and everything. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. Maybe he did, but maybe we'll talk to him about it a little bit on Monday. Anyway, all right, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes, and I want to talk to Bianchi about it, see what he says about it when he did his filming. Let's get to number 5 on our Royal Blue starting 5, which is Florida. A couple more commitments this week, including a safety named Caden Hall. Again, I don't know much about recruiting. I don't pay much attention to it, but I do know if you're getting 4 stars and 3 stars and 5 star, whatever, it's good. It seems like they've got the momentum is built and they're able to get some of these guys. They're flipping some guys and they're, trying to flip some other guys, and we'll see how it all works out. Spurrier's has been a big part of that because they always bring them there and they just take over. I think was it last weekend? They took over the whole restaurant, and Freddie had to put a thing out that said, "Hey, sorry, we're closed. We love all you guys, but we're trying to get some ball players in here." We're all in favor of that. But I did start thinking about things. What will happen? Let's just say Florida goes 7-5, 6-6, something like that this year. I don't think that's good enough. I think at that point you go, hey, everything you're doing, and I'm not trying to say this is going to happen or I expect it to happen, but just if it does, everything you're doing, Billy, is great, except on the field, and you can't translate it for some reason. And we got to win some games. We got to start winning some games. And they decided to make a move. What is this new guy inheriting? He's inheriting a good team, but he's inheriting a culture that, he may be a totally different guy. He's also inheriting a process that they have. Everything is in writing over there on the recruiting side of it. I've seen these long sheets of paper about what everybody's doing every minute. And it'll be different. I don't know. I worry about that. And again, that's not a reason to keep a guy either. And that's the end of that conversation. Again, I'm putting an end to conversations today. That's an end of that conversation. Let's not worry about that until we get further on the season. But, you have to think about it a little bit. All right. That is going to do it for our Royal Blues starting five. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Scott Stricklin, the athletic director at the University of Florida. We'll talk to him about the settlement. We'll talk to him about Kevin O'Sullivan. We'll talk to him about a lot of things. I'm sure San Antonio will come up as well. This is another duly noted podcast brought to you by our good friends at Titan MRI and Imaging and coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the hippie attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
At Royal Blue, we use such tools as AI, bulk email marketing, trade shows, Google search advertising, and multiple websites. We take a much more proactive approach to getting your boat sold in a timely manner. With our extensive client list and broker-dealer network, we can track down vessels that might be perfect for you and your family, that may not even be listed for sale yet, giving you the right of first refusal. We have spent the last 15 years in boat sales, observing and listening to our clients. In response to our findings, we have constructed a custom yacht brokerage that strives to fit their needs and not ours. Call us today to schedule a consultation to see what Royal Blue can do to solve all of your boating needs. Call Randy at 850-974-1294. Hey, let's talk about something that's been a real game changer for many people, including me. BMI TeleMed is one of our sponsors. They're the weight loss specialists and can help you tackle that stubborn belly fat. You know, the kind that usually creeps up once you hit your 40s. Bob Parado and Charlie Gonzalez, two UF-trained pharmacists, work with their medical director to prescribe and deliver the same meds that helped me lose 50 pounds. Yep, 50 pounds. That belly fat, it's not just about looks. It's unhealthy and makes you feel sluggish. Now is the time to do something about it before football season rolls around again. If you're anywhere in Florida, BMI TeleMed, simple online telehealth platform makes it easy. Your weight loss meds get delivered right to your door fast. From my experience, you feel full sooner, eat less, but can keep enjoying the foods that you love, just in smaller portions. Plus, it helps with blood sugar and cravings. Do yourself a favor, head to bmitelemed.com to set up a free private consultation. No obligations, no contracts. These Gators know their stuff. You'll look better, feel better, and be healthier. Visit bmitelemed.com today.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, and welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studio here at the Ponderosa. It is a great pleasure to again bring in Scott Stricklin. He's been on the show before. We always love when he come on, the athletic director at the University of Florida. And it's been kind of a weird year. It's been so great, and then there's been some disappointments. So, I mean, but that's being in athletics, right, Scott?
That's sports, yeah. You want to win them all, and doesn't always work out that way. But when you don't win, you want to try to figure out why, and when you have success, you try to enjoy the heck out of it because it's hard. It's hard to achieve.
It is, and like we were talking about this. People don't understand how hard it is to win one NCAA game, let alone win 6 where you were trailing, in almost every one.
Yeah, that obviously you're talking about basketball. What a special year, special group, and that whole run was magical for anyone, any Gator who was a part of it. Whether you're sitting on your couch or whether you had an opportunity to be at the games, it was that was such a fun team, and not just during the NCAA tournament, but really from the first game of the year going forward. They made it a lot of fun to come out to the O-Dome and support them and watch them and follow them, because they played so hard, they played so well, and they represented the university at such a high level.
Absolutely. My daughter was there. I was at a bar in Gainesville with Robbie Andrew, and when they won the game at the very end, all of a sudden I realized Robbie and I were jumping up and down together, holding each other. And I said, I tried to think about it. And I go, Robbie, we've never been able to celebrate a Gator championship before. We've always been working at it. So we're in there hacking away, you know.
Right.
This was the first time we got to celebrate it. We enjoyed it.
Well, so as a Gator, being the Gator scribe and historian that you are, Pat, I remember watching the '96 national championship in football. I remember watching 06, 08 in football, 06, 07 in basketball. And this is the first one, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first one that it actually came down to the very end. Because in those other championships, the Gators kind of had the game relatively in hand and could let the clock kind of just run out. But this is the first one of the football and basketball titles that it was, you're on the edge of your seat to the very end. Is that correct?
Well, it is. I will say this: the 08 football one was a battle, man. I mean, it was a battle, and in fact, I remember the lead of my column was, "This was the best one because it was the hardest one." And
Right.
but I mean, they did win by, I think, what, 10 points. So, but they got that late touchdown. So, but yeah, it didn't come down to the last play.
Well, just the point is, sudden victory, especially when the stakes are that high, there's something extra euphoric about that, and again, made it a really special memory.
Let's talk a little bit about, and maybe you can explain some of the settlement talk to me, because again, I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to happen this week, we think. And then that happens, and then a month goes by and nothing happens. But regardless of when it does come down, I have asked people, where does that money come from? And I don't know that I know still. Where does that $22 million come from? It comes from you guys, but I mean, is there a special way to generate, or is it just go into your budget?
Yeah, it's 20.5. It's 22%, but it's 20.5 million, and totally new expense line. And back up to your earlier point about we keep waiting for the settlement to be approved. We've been saying that since April 7th, when the final hearing was held, and since then there's been additional ones. So it could happen any day now. We're sitting here the first week of June, and would have thought it would have been approved by now, and it's supposed to go into effect in less than a month. And it's perfect for college athletics that everything's kind of flying by the seat of its pants from how we govern. But to answer your second question about the money, a totally new line item in budgets for athletic departments, and the same with UAA. And so it's a combination of finding new revenue and cutting costs. And we're going to, the budget that has been approved for next year is over 200 million. It's the largest in the history of the UAA. But in addition to finding new revenue through new ticket sales and in some cases increased cost of ticket sales because of the demand that's there. There's a little new SEC money this year. There'll be more the following year related to the TV contract. This year is a not as significant a bump as you would like, given the new expense. But the other is we went to every sport and every department, and we asked everybody to cut 5% out of their budgets, and we didn't care where it came from. We let the coaches make the decision. We didn't say it had to come from travel or it had to come from whatever. We just said you need to find 5%. And fact of the matter is, when times are good and the revenue is flowing, and you still have money constraints, but there's something healthy about looking at a budget and saying where can we be more efficient. So this has caused us to have to do that. So that's where we found some of the money, if you will. Some of that cost saving is helping pay for the 20.5 to go to rev share to support our athletes. And it's going to be 20.5 million either in rev share or new scholarship cost. And so we go from scholarship limits to roster limits. Any scholarship we give over the historical NCAA scholarship limits, the first $2.5 million of those goes against that 20.5 million, but it's still money coming out of the budget.
Yeah, and it's like 20 new football scholarships, for example, right?
Potentially, yeah. Well, I mean, we're not going to fully scholarship every single roster spot, but we're work every sport at the UAA, every Gator sport is going to benefit from this on some level. However, it's going to be, the amount to which each sport benefits is going to be tied to the amount of revenue that they generate. So the sports that generate more revenue will be able to access more of the rev share dollars.
So it won't be where you take the 20 million and you go, it's all going to football. That's where we're going to put it. You're going to do it based on what you're able to create. And of course, I don't know how much revenue golf creates. I don't think it creates a whole lot of revenue, and that's an issue for them, right?
Yeah, you basically, football and men's basketball generate the most revenue, and then you have, about 4 sports that create, relatively significant, not as much as football and men's basketball, but relatively speaking, significant secondary revenue, and that's baseball, softball, gymnastics, volleyball, women's basketball, so 5. And so they're kind of in that next tier, and then all the other spring sports, Olympic sports, are going to benefit in some way. They generate something, whether it's a appearance fee at a track meet or appearance fee at a golf tournament. There's some revenue that gets generated, not net positive revenue, just revenue.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to be fair and spread that around, but there's no question football is going to get a majority of that because it generates the most.
And I mean, how does that work in terms of budgeting your NIL money? I mean, are they unrelated or are they totally related?
Well, NIL will be separate. The rev share could be in the form of institutional NIL payments, but athletes have the ability through the settlement, assuming the settlement gets approved, that, where they could receive outside NIL monies like they currently do, but there is going to be a clearinghouse that's going to try to monitor that so that it is what you might call legitimate NIL and not
Just payouts.
the synthetic NIL that we call synthetic, fancy word, but yeah, the fake NIL that just paying for play, which is what we've seen the last few years in college athletics. And so there's going to be Deloitte is standing up a process. They're going to look at the range of compensation. So, for instance, I'm trying to give a theoretical example here, but like, let's say the Gators have a backup tight end, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular. I'm just making it generic.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And let's say under the NIL world that we've known it, that individual is making $100,000 a year in NIL payments. Well, the Deloitte group is going to look at what appropriate range of compensation for someone with that kind of profile, playing in a market like this, in a league like this, with the TV ratings that this school gets and such. And they're going to look at comparables at other schools and also in pro sports to see, is this a fair range of compensation, that 100,000? And I think what they may find is, like, in the NFL, the backup tight end may get $15,000 in legit sponsorship opportunities. And so that 100,000 will probably get dinged as that is not appropriate range of compensation for third-party name, image, and likeness deals for the backup tight end at an SEC school. And they're gonna ding that and say, you've got to adjust that contract. So there is going to be more. This is all the premise is there's going to be more accountability on the third party NIL piece and a lot more scrutiny on what's going to be allowed there. It's a great concept. I think everybody hopes it works. We're going to do everything we can to make it work. And that is what's envisioned in the settlement. That's not the NCAA doing that. This is the plaintiffs' attorneys working with the defendants in this case, which is the conferences and the NCAA, to present a settlement agreement that both parties want to see go through, and the federal judge would have to approve it. And right now we're waiting on the federal judge to approve all that.
Right. It's I know you just came back from the meetings in Destin, and I'm sure that was interesting. There was a lot of talk about the 511, and I mean, sometimes I get confused. They start throwing numbers out there about what we're going to have. And look, the SEC, I get that they don't want to be restricted to 4. We may not, and there's other years where maybe you shouldn't have 4. To me, the 511 works the best, and as long as you do straight seating, that would be my thing. And of course, I do want to preface this by saying everybody has an answer to how to fix college football. The trouble is they're all different. And so nobody agrees on anything. So it's just an interesting dynamic there.
Well, you're right. Everybody has suggestions. I don't know that I don't know that I've ever heard a solution that really quote fixes it, because there's so many challenges and conundrums that you deal with. I gave a quote at the spring meetings. I think some people thought it was that I was out of my mind, but I made the comment that a committee may not be the best way to determine who's in the football postseason, and simply because you have 70 power conference schools, 130 FBS schools for 12 spots, which is, you're talking about a very small percentage that actually get to participate in it. And you don't play enough games to create the kind of data you need, like you have in basketball and baseball or softball, to really be able to accurately compare across conferences. And if the committee was such a great idea, every pro league would have a committee to determine who's in their postseason.
Right.
If the committee was such a great idea, NFL, we'd all wake up on Monday morning after the NFL regular season and wait for Roger Goodell to stand up and tell us what the committee decided who's in the playoffs. But they don't do that because it's not the best way to do it, because the best way to do it is play representative schedules and look at your win-loss and how you did against teams in your division and wild cards, and come up and have a easy to understand format for people to follow. College football does not have that. College athletics has it on the conference level. So, at the end of a regular season for a sport that has a tournament, so whether it's baseball, softball, men's and women's basketball, you name it, we go off conference standings, and that's the seeding, and we have a bracket. No, there's no controversy, right? We're not having a committee decide the men's basketball seeding for the SEC tournament. So we use a committee because there's not a great way to do it. The one thing that's intriguing to me about the idea of the automatics is you're taking away the subjective nature of a committee and replacing it with the objective conference win-loss record, how you did against teams in your league. And there is something really appealing to me about that. However, it makes it, I understand the challenges. There's challenges with that as well. I think the problem with the committee, I've been on the college football playoff committee. Right. There are really good people on that committee that try really hard. And so this is not a knock against anybody on that committee. But I know that when you're sitting there with an 11-win team from a conference that may not be as strong, and this team's particular schedule may not be as rigorous as, say, an SEC team that went 9-3, that 9-3 SEC team, we all may conventional wisdom may tell you that team's better than that 11-win team, but it's going to be really hard for a committee to justify putting a 9-win team over an 11-win team. That's the problem with the committee. It's not accurately able to assess the how good the teams are. And the fact of the matter is, a 12-game playoff isn't big enough. 12-team, a 16-team playoff may not be big enough for the universe of teams that are trying to get postseason opportunities. And say what you want about bowl games, and bowl games have served college athletics, college football for a long time really well. But in this day and age, a legitimate postseason opportunity is a playoff opportunity. And there's just, we don't have, I don't think the format of the playoff is right size for the number of teams in the universe trying to achieve those. And the last thing I'll say is, and this is just an observation, but you remember, Pat, back in the days when, the Big Ten champion would go undefeated, and go to the Rose Bowl, and the SEC champion would be undefeated and go to the Sugar Bowl. And everybody complained that those two teams couldn't play each other. But I think and so that's why we have what we have now, right? First the BCS and now the CFP.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, college football works really well as a regional sport. And it is a regional sport, but it has national appeal. And so we keep trying to make it a national, have national competition. It's really hard to do, especially as our leagues have gotten bigger. It's really hard to do it across conferences. And we haven't even gotten into the fact that doing it across conferences opens you up to antitrust litigation and other things. It's just, so I go back to all these solutions people have. There are no obvious solutions. There's no easy solutions. And what we're left to deal with, whether it's a 511 or 4 automatics, is the best of bad options right now.
That's right, exactly. Before we get to yes, no way, or maybe, which we play all the time here, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. And of course, we're on the Zoom line brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak as well. I do have to ask you about the statement that came out yesterday. We spent 2 hours talking about it on the radio. Most people were defending Sully. I took the same approach, I think, of a lot of people. Sully wasn't wrong, but he didn't handle it the right way. And I think that's kind of what your statement basically said.
Hey, Kevin O'Sullivan has represented the University of Florida really well for 18 years. And I think we were all surprised by what transpired on Sunday. And it was certainly out of character for how he has dealt with external people, whether it's people running a tournament or other teams. I shared this. I said this to Sully. I said, and you've heard this line, but life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you respond. And it doesn't matter how wronged we feel, how much injustice there might be. We have a responsibility to treat others with respect and to represent this university in a first-class manner. And I have no doubt that going forward, Sully will do what he's always done outside of Sunday and do that. It was disappointing, and my sense from talking to Sully and reading his comment that he understands that that's not appropriate and won't be doing that anymore.
All right, let's play yes, no way, or maybe, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. Go in there and say you listen to the Scott Stricklin interview and you get free French fries with your order. How about that? All right, number 1, the university will have a president by the end of the summer. I hit you with a hardball, right?
You did. Can they have interim in front of their name? Does that count?
I guess. I'm
going to say yes if they can have an interim in front of their name.
It's wild, isn't it?
I probably should keep my comments to minimum on this one.
Well, I figured I'd throw that one out there for you. All right, number 2 on yes, no way, or maybe. One of your proudest achievements is how you've made Condren into a happening.
I'd say yes. It's a great place to go to a ballpark, and it's been fun to see Gator fans really enjoy coming out to Condren Ballpark and filling the place and creating a great atmosphere. My sense back when we were playing at McKeithen is that people would complain that Florida did not have great baseball support, and I did not agree with that. I felt like there were parts of that park that were not great from a fan perspective, and
right.
If the University of Florida ever had the kind of ballpark that really catered to the fans, that we would see the true support that the Gators have. And I think we finished 5th or 6th in the nation in attendance this year, which is just a huge testament to the way that they've responded to the ballpark and how much they care about that program.
It is kind of funny how Gator fans used to get a lot of criticism for 3 things. One is they wouldn't show up for games that didn't matter that much in football. In basketball, they never went on the road. And in baseball, they didn't even show up for home games. Now all those things, those are all myths now. Because what the show you guys made in San Antonio was incredible. I mean, it was orange and blue everywhere.
No question. It was, and I would say Raleigh, they had great fan support. Gators showed up, and even in San Francisco, we had a lot of West Coast Gators who took advantage of that opportunity to see the team out there. But yeah, I think everybody was concerned because of proximity of Houston to San Antonio that the Gators were going to be greatly outnumbered, and obviously Houston had a great turnout. But you could really tell how many Gators there were when you were standing on the podium. I was behind the team on the podium when the trophy was being presented, and all the Houston people had filed out, and all the Gators were still there, and there were still a lot of orange and blue in the Allstate Dome. And so kudos to Gator fans for being a part of that championship.
Yeah, just watching it on TV, you're like, wow, that got loud when Walter Clayton made that shot.
Yeah.
All right, finally, number 3 on Yes, Nowhere, or Maybe with Scott Stricklin. The SEC will be at 9 conference games next year.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a big maybe, isn't it?
I'm going to hedge my bets on that. I'm not going to say no. I am, what's fascinating is we expanded from 14 to 16 as a league. The SEC did not add a single extra conference game in any sport. And I have a level of frustration about that. I feel like we should play each other more in everything. I think our women's basketball program teams only playing 16 conference games is a big mistake. And I understand the softball and baseball schedule limits you, but softball only plays 8 of the other 14 conference schools. We have 15 softball schools teams in the SEC. You miss almost half the league.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I understand why that is. It's frustrating. So I would like to see football get to 9, but it's got to make sense. I struggle if we're going to have a committee. I struggle trusting that the committee is going to accurately assess the rigor of an SEC schedule, especially if we add another game. And so I struggle with 9 being the right thing as long as we have a committee deciding who's in the CFP. But eventually, I think we need to get to 9.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's got to be a revenue gainer. I mean, that was what I was trying to tell people before. The reason that the SEC didn't go to 9 when all this expansion happened and everything is because ESPN wasn't going to give them any more money. ESPN was going through some issues of their own, and now everything's all hunky-dory, and I think that's there. But I agree with you. But you never know with a committee. If they go, well, they went 5-4 in the conference, and yeah, but they still were great. They were one of the best teams, but we're not going to include them anyway.
Well, it's worth noting that the SEC once again was the most viewed conference in college football. But the most viewed season the SEC has ever had was 2020, which was the COVID year where everybody played 10 conference games and no non-conference games. That was the most viewed SEC season on record. And so there's something instructive there about when, people want to see SEC versus SEC.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about it. However, I will say a lot of those people were stuck at home and they either had Tiger King or watching the Gators play Ole Miss.
Yeah, there was probably some pent-up demand to watch as well. But I still think the fact that every week you're going to get SEC on SEC made that a fun league, a fun season to follow.
One last question for you, because I've had people ask me, and I don't know the answer, is why Long Island for the opener? Did somebody drop out, or has that been scheduled for a long time?
It's not been terribly long. Pat, off the top of my head, I can't remember if somebody moved out. We always play an FCS game. I think next year it's Sanford. So Long Island's an FCS game, just similar to the ones we played in the past. It's unique in that probably people didn't realize Long Island had a football program because they don't have a lot of notoriety there, and it's further away than we typically play. We bring our FCS opponent in from, although we played Eastern Washington and other teams like that in the past. So yeah, so nothing other than it's so fascinating. Everyone wants to talk about how hard the Gators schedule has been last year and how hard it looks like it's going to be this year. But then they pick on a Long Island opponent. So it's like, at some point, I think the rigor of Gator schedule is going to be tough enough, and hopefully that'll be a good opener, and we can have a great crowd in the Swamp, and everybody be excited to see us kick it off.
We can't wait. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. Scott, thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate you. We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast right after we take this break.
No, growing up in Gainesville, definitely different, especially having the University of Florida there. It was basically like a dream of everybody's, growing up to just have an opportunity to play at the University of Florida. So everybody doesn't have that, the opportunity to do so. So I just feel like me being able to give back to the city that helped me, become the player and the person I am today. It's like, why not just go back and give back? You just become a great person, not just a great athlete or not just a great, teacher or anything, just a great person in general, having those attributes and those type of characteristics just help people just become better people. So that's what I'm trying to do, help the youth just become great.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. About the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Coach, it always impressed me how you beat Florida State to win the 1996 National Championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spur's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave, Los Landeros tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean Head Beer Coach 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Landeros tequila, smooth enough to drink neat, bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Landeros tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Landeros.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Thanks a lot to Scott for coming on. And again, like I said earlier, Coach Spur will be in here Monday. Connor O'Gara from Saturdays Down South next Thursday. And then we'll just keep moving along and getting more guests. We have a great time with it. We need to get to this, that, and the other. And of course, this, that, and the other, we love doing this, that, and the other. And it comes to you with a new sponsor, but it still comes to you with our two great sponsors. And I want to make sure we single them out. Darr Schackow Insurance for all your big time insurance needs. And of course, our good friends at Ballyhoo Grill. We appreciate them very much. This was in there yesterday, had a little bite to eat. So we appreciate Ballyhoo Grill. All right, somebody just texted me, I think. All right, so anyway, we have a new sponsor, and that new sponsor is Notary Joe. Now, Joseph Newton is his name, and if you need a notary who comes to you, call Notary Joe, your trusted mobile notary, serving our community with fast, reliable, and professional service wherever you are. Military or veteran, you'll receive a special discount because Notary Joe proudly honors those who serve. Just visit notaryjoe.com today. All right, Notary Joe's. So new sponsor. We excited about having a new sponsor on. It's always good to have new sponsors. I love it. I love how many of you have stuck with us too, and I think we've had a lot of fun with it. And anyway, let's get to our this, that, and the other. and sponsored by Notary Joe, sponsored by Darr Schackow, and sponsored by Ballyhoo Grill. Let's start. Here's what this part of it is, that we watched the SEC baseball all year, and it was unbelievable, right? It was, I mean, every week you're going up against a guy who's going to be pitching in the big leagues, and just power hitters everywhere, older players. Georgia had all these old guys out there. It was hard, and that's part of why Florida started 1-11. But we all knew the SEC was the dominant conference, and it was proven out in that part of it, which was that the SEC had a record 13 teams get into the tournament, get into the NCAA tournament. This is on the heels of having a record 14 teams get into the NCAA basketball tournament, just dominating everything. The other, unfortunately, is it didn't go well once the games started. Obviously, Vanderbilt gets knocked out by Wright State. Texas gets knocked out by UTSA. Only 4 SEC out of 13 SEC teams survived to the Super Regional. Now, I will say this. It's hard to win regionals. I understand that. But, man, there were some disappointing performances. Watched a lot of it, too. But certainly, and here's the thing I wonder about. Because, look, everybody has to start from a point A to do a poll or do any kind of a computer ranking or RPI or quad ones, all that stuff. You got to start from point A. You can't just start from outer space. I mean, there's got to be a point A where you're putting garbage in, garbage out, is what Heath Klein used to say. And I wonder if this is going to hurt the SEC when it comes in next year's rankings. Now, the preseason rankings, as you know, nobody cares about. Nobody cares about them. Everybody's going to talk about it. Texas A&M didn't get in the tournament after being preseason number 1. Who cares? But will this affect when they come to selections and they go, well, that one year we put them 13 in and only 4 survived, and the ACC actually was a better conference when it got down to the regional. So anyway, I just wonder about that, and that is this, that, and the other for you today. And again, thanks to our new sponsor. Let's get to let's go to our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem Moment.
The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today.
Okay, this is a Red Sox game yesterday, and I was paying attention to what was going on. And then I saw they walked one off, and I did not see that they walked it off with a 308-foot homer. And the shortest walk-off ever is what they're saying. Now, again, I don't know how you can tell that, because back in the 1800s, I'm sure they were hitting home runs into a cornfield, and they didn't know whether it was or not. But it was a mayhem moment, there's no doubt about it. And especially to hit it down there at the pesky pole, I think was the name of that, right? Because that's what Johnny Pesky used to always do, was just drop him inside that thing. But that is the cool thing about Fenway, is that you can hit a 308-foot home run. It is our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem Moment. We appreciate Hugh Cain Allstate. Let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Ken and Jennifer do a great job, as you know, with all of your needs for workers' compensation and family law. Just give them a call at 352-339-9920 or reach them at www.hklawfl.com. All your needs, they're great for you. Let's get to number 1 on Hesser and Kipke's 3 things. And that is, I got to be honest with you, I have not watched any hockey. I was paying attention to hockey. I didn't watch it, but I was paying attention to what was going on, because it is the Stanley Cup Finals. And we do have a team from the state in, although I don't consider Florida Miami part of Florida. Miami's part of something else. I don't know what, like you cut it off. And anyway, but it is interesting that the Panthers have, you talk about an underappreciated, under the radar team. If you're not into hockey, is nobody talks about it. But Stanley Cup started last night, did not go well, although, you lose in overtime in the first game on road ice. That's not the worst thing in the world. They lost 4-3 in overtime, and So it's 1-0. Edmonton. I can name a player on Edmonton. McDavid, right? That's an Edmonton player. Florida, no idea. Couldn't name one. I need to get more. I'm gonna try to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. I love the sport of hockey. I just don't have a rooting interest for some reason. All right, let's move on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things to you win 60 games 2 years in a row. You get your team to the, if Halliburton doesn't hit that 3, you probably are in the NBA Finals. You were in the Eastern Conference Final, and what do? They fire you. So Tom Thibodeau, no soup for you. But look, there's a lot of things going on here. I think it's more player driven, and now the words come out that the players are saying we didn't like that Jalen Brunson's dad who's on the staff, was always in the middle of things, and they felt like it was too much. And okay, players are spoiled, and they may be right. Look, I don't think that like the reason Brady left is that Belichick didn't like his guy that was working with him and threw him out of the locker room. And maybe Belichick was right. I don't know the answer to all these things. I'm not around it. But at any rate, Tom Thibodeau gets fired. And, of course, a lot of names are coming up there, including Jason Kidd's name, which is weird because he's already got a job. But, Dan Hurley came up, Jay Wright, and, of course, they went, get out of here. I don't want to do that. Why you would want to stay in college? I guess the biggest reason to want to stay in college is you built something and you want to continue it. And I know that's what held Billy back for a while. He won. I mean, we all know that he was ready to go to the Magic and then came back because he still wasn't done building. And then he got done building and he said, okay, now I'm ready to go to the NBA. And I think that, but of course, Dan Hurley, I don't know that he wants to go to the NBA because his act barely plays in college. He catches a lot of criticism already being a college coach, let alone being an NBA coach where the camera's on you all the time and all the games, not just the games that, when you're playing East Illinois State, in a home game, there's probably not too many cameras. So anyway, they all shot it down. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's get to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, which was at one point number 1 on our Royal Blue, but I wanted to get to some other things, so I brought this back. But I watched the whole game, the Texas A&M game. I can't say that I've never seen anything like it, but it's rare. But if you didn't see it, Texas A&M is up 1-0 on a questionable call. And I think that is an awful call. It may be the call according to the rules, but then you need to change the rules. When nobody's near you and your foot is in front of the base. Anyway, that's how they took the lead. So maybe karma came back to get them. Texas in the bottom of the 6 has runners on second, third. They're trying to walk. What's her name? God, I'm blank. Atwood. They're trying to walk her, the catcher, who hasn't got a hit in the entire College World Series, and they throw 3 balls, and they're all kind of close to being strikes. And you're like, what are you doing? Are you going to walk her or not? And she throws one down in them the middle, and boom. Single, 2-run score, they win the game, and they're up 1-0. I mean, what a drama. It was great. It was really great to watch, and I enjoyed watching it. But they are up 1-0 now, and we'll see if Texas Tech, because I'm sure Texas Tech is going, man, we cannot believe we lost that game. Cannot believe it. But we still got the $1 million pitcher. And she can go all day. She'll go in this game, and then she'll go in game 3 if we have to. So they probably don't feel like this thing is even close to being over. But usually the team that wins that first game wins it. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's move along to our Los Linderos smooth move of the weekend. Los Linderos tequila. Please go beyond with Los Linderos. We appreciate them. The tequila of choice for Urban Meyer. Los Linderos smooth move of the week was my man Pete Alonso, the polar bear. last night against the Dodgers very smoothly hit 2 home runs. And now, very smoothly, is leading the NL in RBI. Now, it's weird because remember, it wasn't that long ago, he was still in a contract dispute and he ended up getting his money. And you're like, okay, I hope now that you got your money, you can do well, after you get the money, because you don't want it to just fall off. Because, I mean, look, I don't like the Mets. You know that. I love Pete Alonso. And it's hard for me not to root for him when he comes up, except against the Braves, of course. But anyway, very smoothly, now tied for the lead in the NL in RBI. 2 homers last night. Got it done. Los Landeros salute you. All right, let's get to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. Speaking of saluting people, we love to do that with Adams Ribco. And anybody who wins an Adams Ribco Gator of the Week, come on down. I'll buy you some ribs. How about that? And today it is somebody who does not play for Florida, but did play for Florida, was an All-American. That is Elizabeth Hightower. Now, Elizabeth Hightower was a great pitcher here. It's funny because I met her dad at that FAU game, softball game. We were sitting right behind him. We talked. He took our picture. Actually, wanted to get our picture taken, the 4 of us. And she was an assistant coach for FAU. Now she's a pitching coach at Troy. So I think she was a grad assistant at FAU. So this is a good chance for her to start her coaching career. And great news for her. Her dad's a great dude, man. And we enjoyed talking to him. And Elizabeth was always great to interview. But good luck to her at Troy. And that is our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. Okay, we could have made Pete Alonso the Gator of the Week, but I mean, we're trying to vary things, okay? Let us move along to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. And of course, I did, Michael Tudine, who was our winner last week, I did send you. It went out in the mail today or yesterday or tomorrow. It's in the mail. Let's just put it that way. So your $25 gift certificate at Leonardo's is on the way. Let's get some more qualifiers, though, and this is an easy one, but you've got to answer it by Friday at noon. Let's say Friday at 4, somewhere in there. Don't send them to me on Sunday, okay? Because here's the question. How many SEC teams survive the Super Regionals? How many SEC teams are alive on Monday? Because there could be a game on Monday, and I don't want it to cut into your whether you get in or not. So how many SEC teams on Monday morning are still playing baseball? That is our question for our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick pick. In fact, I got to head over there. I may go today. Got to pick up some more gift certificates. I still have one left to give away. Anyway, all right, let's get to our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. And the Sponge of the Week are the NBA playoffs. And they're the sponge because they soak up all the news and all the talk shows and everything nationally. But it's just such a drag to wait all this time. You're like fired up for the finals, and you got to wait all this time. And then you play a game, and you got to wait 2 more days, even though you're not changing cities. I don't understand that. But it's what TV wants, TV gets. Anyway, the NBA playoffs are our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. Let us get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club segment. We appreciate them. Did confirm with Alex Brown the other day about September 2nd, so they're just trying to work all that out. Chris Dorn did a great job the other night speaking to us and replacing Laura Rutledge, who had to beg out, but they're working really hard to get Laura back in July. So I think that is going to happen. And then, of course, the big gala is the Tuesday before the first game, and Billy Donovan speaking for that. Everybody's going to dress up just for Billy. Now, we're dressing up for the gala. Food will be good. Drinks will be good. Speaker will be tremendous. My introduction may not be that great, but I'll do the best I can. So the Gainesville Quarterback Club, the oldest club in the world, you need to join it, man. The speakers are unbelievable. Like we mentioned earlier, Kevin Carter's coming, Alex Brown, Charles Davis, Andy Staples, Scott Stricklin's going to be speaking, Noah Brindise. We got some others we're working on, so it's going to be great. Need to be a member. It is cool, okay, and it's a lot of fun. I look forward to it every Tuesday during football season. All right, let's get to our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week, and of course, it is brought to you by BMI TeleMed. Achieve and Maintain. It's your weight loss specialist, and you can call that number 727-383-1677 and get an appointment to get your weight loss going with BMI TeleMed, semaglutide. And hey, look, Charles will take care of you, I promise you. You get a 10% discount too if you mention that you heard it on another Dooley Noted podcast. So that's good. I'm working on it right now. In fact, Doring said something to me. It was kind of funny, but I don't want to say too much. But anyway, he just went, "What's going on with you? How come you're so skinny?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to lose weight, man. I'm working on it. Charles and I are working on it. I am skinny for me. For me, I'm skinny. But I always take, when somebody says, boy, you're skinny, I go, no, I'm less fat, which is what I am, a lot less fat. Anyway, our smart move of the weekend, I don't know why my phone is doing this to me. Our smart move of the weekend is the Kansas City Royals, and they deserve it. Look, they were hearing a lot of noise about you got to get Caglione up to the majors. What else is going on there? Get him up there and let's see what he can do. And so calling him up was great. And of course, watched his first game and hit the first ball was a rope to right center, and guy ran it down, made a really nice catch. And so anyway, but the smart move, BMI TeleMed smart move of the week was to definitely call Cags up. They need him up there. Everybody needs to be able to watch this guy play. We love watching him play. All right, let us get to our Swamp games of the weekend. And our Swamp, by the way, we're going to be at the Swamp today. And if you're listening to this in time, from 4 to 6 doing the radio show, just wanted to get out of the studio. We've been in the studio for so much, and we haven't been out and about. We love going to the Swamp. And you love going to the Swamp and watching all the stuff you can watch. Tonight, you can watch softball at 8 o'clock. Game 2, Texas might clinch and win its first ever national championship, or they could play Friday. And again, it's another 8 o'clock game. Both those games are on ESPN. The NBA tonight, 8:30 on ABC, and then they don't play again till Sunday, 8 o'clock on ABC. I did want to give you, the Red Sox and Yankees, the greatest rivalry in the whole world, which nobody really believes. They play at 7:15 on Fox on Saturday, and then at Sunday at 7 on Sunday on ESPN. So obviously, Yankees, Red Sox always dominates. It's fine. I wanted to give you some of the baseball, just the games I'm going to be paying attention to. Regional baseball, super regionals, of course. And again, I know that a lot of you are like, I don't want to watch it because the Gators are out of it. And it'll be on the second TV, I'll do my negative rooting. I'll do the best I can there. Miami at Louisville, 3 o'clock on ESPN2. FSU at Oregon State. Oh, Beavers. By the way, I forgot that the Beavers were the name of the basketball team in Teen Wolf. Anybody else remember that? No? Okay. So FSU at Oregon State's at 6 o'clock on ESPN2. And then also earlier in the day, Arizona, North Carolina. That's not Arizona. I can't even read what that says. That's a noon game. Whoever's playing North Carolina on ESPN2. And then Coastal at Auburn's a 9 o'clock game. I can't believe I'm going to be saying this, but I'm rooting for Auburn in that game. I don't like what that coach did. It's on ESPN2 as well. ESPN2, the home of college baseball. But there are games on ESPN, including the West Virginia LSU game, which is at 2 o'clock on ESPN, and the Tennessee-Arkansas game. Yeah, that's a game I'm going to watch. I promise you that. 5 o'clock on ESPN. All right. That's going to do it for our show. We appreciate Scott for being on. We appreciate everybody for listening and everybody for watching. Again, take care of our sponsors because they're making this show go, and we appreciate them very much. We also appreciate Zach, who does yeoman's amount of work trying to get everything set up for me. Appreciate him. We'll be back with another show on Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley saying I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.